Hey everybody, it's Dave with Dii. We've got our show going on today. Thanks for coming and checking it out. Today we've got a special guest. His name is Adam Maalouf, and he's going to be telling us a lot about what he's been up to with his musical career with the handpan. And also we've got a workshop with him that we're trying to schedule in June. We actually had one, I think, scheduled earlier in January, but since the Omicron thing came out, we decided to cancel it. So anyway, without any further ado, Adam. There he is.
Hey!
Awesome.
Woo!
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Yeah, I'm glad. I was talking with you earlier, and I was glad to know that you weren't in New York because I heard they have that big storm going on up there. So you're down in what, South Carolina now?
Yes, yeah, we're down
Awesome.
here. It's pretty sunny, beautiful, gorgeous day. Good
Oh,
time of year to
wonderful.
be in this part of the world.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's good news. So I think I had you here, or you came to the shop about 3 years ago. I think it was 2018. You did a workshop here. And so it's been several years. And I believe you had a baby. Is that correct?
Yes.
Nice. Was it a
Yeah, we
boy or
have
girl?
a 8-month-old boy,
Okay.
and his name is Jay, and he's absolutely gorgeous. Really one of my favorite people.
Wonderful. Perfect. Congratulations. I'm glad to hear that.
You have kids as well, right?
Absolutely. I've got a 15 and 16-year-old daughters, two daughters.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Yep. All sorts of fun. Now we're looking forward to college. It's unbelievable. I can't believe how the time has flied. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, like I said, we've got this workshop that we're working on. Hopefully, we can get that set up in June. So, everybody out there that's watching right now, set your calendars. Make sure that you're looking for that information that's going to be coming up in the future. Also, by the way, if there is anybody new on right now that hasn't watched the show before, please subscribe to the channel. Click on the red subscribe button below the screen. And also, go to our website if you want to become a newsletter, get onto our newsletter. Go to davesislandinstruments.com, go all the way to the bottom of the homepage, and there should be like a little button for the newsletter, and click sign up for the newsletter, and that'd be great to have you. And you get announcements about shows like this and that sort of thing. We're also, of course, on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Dave's Island Instruments. Uh, and so, real quick, Adam, why don't you give us like a little quick bio of how you started with music, your origins, your origin story.
Yeah. Sure. So I started playing music when I was very young. 3 years old, was taking piano lessons with my mother. She's a piano teacher, and
Okay.
and then I started playing percussion when I was maybe 5, and also played cello for many years when I was young, and studied, in orchestras and lessons and all that whatnot. And then I didn't really into the handpan until I went to music school for around college time at 18. Went to the
Hmm.
Eastman School of Music and studied percussion there for 4 years. And then after that time, I was at a percussion festival in Asheville, and we had some friends in our handpan community, Peter Levitov and Rusty
Oh
James,
yeah.
uh, brought their collection of handpans to the percussion festival and shared it with the percussionists there. One day they brought all the instruments in and were kind of showing us the different types of handpan. They had halo, they had hung, some different
Okay.
makers. I think maybe
Yeah.
even one or two of yours. Um, and that was where I was really ready at a time in my life when I was ready to kind of enter into this new world, and this new world
Yeah.
was presenting itself. It was perfect timing kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, Ended up acquiring my first handpan from Rusty that weekend, and started very quickly kind of incorporating the handpan in with the other world percussion, the other percussion that I was working on with
Yeah.
composing. Um, Always started out just in my bedroom with microphones. Now I'm in a basement with microphones.
Of course. That's right. Moving on up.
Yes.
So hey, I got a question. So I know that you've attended universities for different kind of music schools and that sort of thing. Do you ever get any lowbrow kind of like people looking down at you, kind of go, "Oh, he plays the handpan"? Like this is supposed to be like a upper end music school or whatever. A handpan seems
Yeah.
like a little less,
Um,
whatever.
Not from the classical, not from friends in the classical community, but I do remember something happening in the classical Arabic community. There is
Oh,
an
interesting.
Arabic music scene.
Yeah.
There is this guy was posting online one day, part of our friend group in New York, something about handpan players being the equivalent to hacky sack players are
Ah,
to sports. And
right.
I got
Yeah.
real fired up. I got real
Okay.
fired up in my response, and
Right. No, it's just interesting
but
because when things are new, it takes a while for people to get comfortable with a new instrument. They always kind of look at it with skepticism and that sort of thing. And I don't know,
yeah,
my personal experience so far with the handpan has been this really interesting kind of growth that I've gone through with it. I was kind of one of those guys when I first heard about it because I was making steel drums all through the 1990s and early 2000s, and steel drums tend to have like 20, 25 notes on them, right? And so when the first time somebody told me, "Hey, Dave, would you consider making a handpan?" And I was like, "Well, it didn't seem like it was a big deal because it only had 8 notes." I was like, "Well, it only has 8 notes. Like, what's the point?" I didn't understand like what the point of it was, right? But
hmm
as I've grown, I've realized, oh, it's not just the 8 notes. It's like everything that you can do with those 8 notes and all the different aspects of like the different tonalities that you can get out of the instrument, along
hmm
with the rhythmic kind of playing and that sort of thing. Which, by the way, I want to touch on some of the rhythm because
hmm
you're amazing with rhythm. So later on in this interview, so anyway,
yeah.
so I
I
just
mean,
think it's a fascinating instrument. And, at first glance, you look at it and you go, oh, it's just got a couple notes, 8 notes or 9 notes, whatever it is. And anyway, but once you start getting started with it, you realize, oh, this is a pretty cool, nuanced instrument.
yeah. I mean, it inspired me to grab my notebook here. When I think of the handpan, I'm thinking, okay, you have the fundamental tone, the ding. So say, here's your ding, fundamental tone, right?
Okay.
Okay, now we also have the melodic aspect of the instrument. So maybe like go up a fifth, an octave, 2 octaves. So now we're in this realm, 2 octaves above the fundamental tone, right? Okay, and then to the lay person, that's where the handpan begins and ends. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
someone that hasn't really listened.
Yeah.
But if you really listen, now you're gonna hear harmonics way above the just fundamental pitches of the scale. You're gonna hear octaves, fifths, harmonics all up in this spectrum. So almost all of the highs that are on the harmonic spectrum live within the handpan. Also, people are like, oh, D is the lowest note, but you also have all of this low air compression. When you strike the ding, you're actually activating a whole range of lows that are not even audible. Or if you're not really like listening closely, or maybe even put your ear up to the instrument, then you can hear it closer. You can hear this low range of instruments. So you have the sub bass frequencies, what you hear the subwoofer coming out of someone's car, like these really really low lows. If you don't have a speaker uh, that can replicate those types of sounds, you're not even going to hear it on a recording.
Right.
You get a sub going, and then so you hear those sub bass. Then you have the fundamental pitches, the scale, and then you have all the harmonics on top of that, and it's like this whole entire harmonic range
Yeah.
that I like to experiment with when playing the handpan. A lot of different ways that you can activate those tones. Um, so, for example,
Okay.
Hey Adam,
this
this is
is
Daniel too. If you can use a darker pen, someone was asking. Randy said to use a darker pen so he could see.
yeah. So I didn't actually even write anything. I just kind of like was jotting around with my thing. But so I have this like this is our fundamental pitch, and then just a few octaves of notes, however many notes. So you have 21 notes on your Satya sound sculpture,
Yeah.
and
Right.
then you're still in this range here in the mid range, mid highs. But then with the harmonics, then you start getting in the high range of what's audible. So this can be the tone, like when you strike a note like this, just like a percussive sound, you're
Yeah.
activating some of these higher frequencies. Also, when you're playing, the octave above the highest note, that's really the sound that is ringing the entire time while you're playing.
Right. It's true.
So I'm going to hear this E, it's actually this high E. Super, super high note. Can you hear that note
Yeah.
in the live stream?
Oh yeah.
So that's maybe around the highest range. And then in the lowest range, oh, there's a very low sound. If you can activate this by really listening to the goo. And I'm taking my palm, very lightly tapping on the ding while listening to the goo. Oh, oh, oh. Do you ever do this with any of your instruments, Dave?
Oh yeah. You can't hear it over the speakers, by the way. It's like you
can't
said.
hear
It's
it.
like I can't hear it. I've got
I can
headphones
hear
in.
it.
I can't hear
I
it.
can hear it, Dave.
Oh, you
No,
can hear it. Oh,
you can hear it
Daniel
through
could
your
hear
ears.
it.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel could hear it. Cool. But hey, I've got a quick story. I was playing in a big theater in Taiwan, of all places, and it was super fun because it was a big theater, and so you're talking about the goo and the subtones that come out of it. It was really nice to be in a big theater with the speakers up front, and they had the big subwoofers. So I had the microphone underneath the handpan, and so yeah, it was so cool. You could just like play that like tapping the top note or whatever, kind of getting that goo frequency to penetrate into the microphone. It was huge, and you could just tell the people in the audience were like, what is going on? Like that instrument is just so small, but it's got this huge sound, So it is interesting.
Huge range. And
totally cool.
That range, comes in handy when you're working with other musicians. Say that you play with a didgeridoo player. Didgeridoo player is a lot of these low frequencies, kind of holding down the low end. Then you as a player can play more melodic, you can play more percussive, and think that low end is already being occupied by sound. Think of how you can play to complement that. Same thing if I'm playing with a violinist or a sitar, somebody that's playing really up high in the high register, then I can accompany by holding down ding. I can play the goo in this way to create percussive tones, all to complement whatever the other musician is doing at that time.
Yeah. So by the way, for the listeners and the viewers that are out there right now, if you guys aren't familiar with Adam's music, you should really go check it out. He's got it on iTunes, Apple Music, whatever you want to call it. I believe you said Amazon, and I believe you said Bandcamp, right? So, as you're watching the show, you could kind of like go on your phone and just check it out. It's absolutely amazing music. It's some of the most well-produced music that I've actually heard with handpan incorporated with it. He uses lots of different instrumentation, voices, Middle Eastern instruments. Also, also like electronica. You've got like some crazy cool like DJ kind of sounds on some of those tracks. Am I all right? You got some stuff.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, no, it's really cool
Dave.
stuff. Absolutely, it's very, very cool stuff. And so if you're not familiar with his music, go check it out, because I think what he's talking about today in this interview, it'll make a little bit more sense if you actually hear what he's done, because you're going to realize, oh, that's what he played, or that's what he, when he says he plays cello, or when he plays, was it the DAF? Do you have a DAF or a frame drum or something like that?
Yeah.
I think you had some in your house you could show us, but yeah, if you have a little example and you can listen to this interview and be like, oh my gosh, this guy's a genius. You really are. You do some really amazing stuff with the recordings that I've heard.
That's really kind of you, Dave. So I produce all of my records are really self-produced. I use Ableton Live. I've got a set of microphones. These here, if I flip my camera. Sorry. There we go. Boom. So, hi.
There it is.
So basically, this is my little desk where I make all my music and music production keyboard. I built this
Look at
desk.
that. Nice.
Yeah, I actually built this.
Yeah.
When moving to South Carolina and got a garage, I started building all kinds of stuff because I have the space for it. So some sound panels, and then I've got my tabla instruments here. These are instruments from India, the tabla drums. I've studied tabla for about 8 years, 10 years. Did some different percussion on shelving, some instruments I'm going to play for you, udu and frame drum. There are the microphones. Those are plugged into a cable box just around the corner there. So I could get maybe 8 microphones set up in here. Rest of the room, some drums, my cello, some different percussion stuff, and space for teaching. But yeah, so I really started as a musician playing all these different percussion instruments, and then gravitated very strongly to the handpan, and then was challenged with, okay, how can I incorporate the handpan into the styles of music that I've been learning, styles of music that I want to play, the types of artists that are around that I want to work with, that I am currently working with. How can I incorporate this instrument in with what we're doing? So in New York, this would really mean a variety of things. Like I was playing with the Brooklyn Raga Massive. It's an Indian music collective that is still in existence in New York. And this is a group that would get together once a week and bring instruments. There would be a featured artist that would play a concert, and then there would be a jam session afterwards. And so artists would come from all over. The friends and audience attendees would come. They knew there was going to be an amazing kind of like live in the moment music hang. So I'll bring the handpan and try and see how the handpan could be incorporated. So, for example, in Indian music, sitar the sitar instrument will be in a key center such as D. Unless if you're specifically tuning to another key, then D center, you can play all different compositions, but D is going to be like the focal note. So I would bring D Kurd or D Hijaz, kind of knowing who was going to be there with what instrument, just for that specific reason. My friend plays the Bansuri flute, also an Indian style flute. His flutes, he could really operate really well in E. He also played guitar, and E minor was like a really nice key for him to play guitar and flute. So when I would play with him, then we would have material in E. So then this started becoming challenging. I got a low G sharp pan from Yashama, and I was like, okay, I really want to play this instrument because it's like an amazing sound, but none of my friends' instruments are centered in G sharp.
Right.
So it's like it's not the easiest key to work around with some of these world instruments. But over time, I've found that lots of people are comfortable tuning to C sharp. Tuning their instruments. So and then that's what I do if I play cello with this instrument. Also, is I'll tune. See, the cello's tuned C, G, D, A, and I'll tune it to C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and A sharp.
Cool.
And it just sits in my fingers so that I can play with the instrument. And that is transposing your instrument to fit your handpan is going to extremely long lengths to try and make handpan music happen.
Right.
But it's necessary. I mean, you kind of need to, because otherwise you're trying to play your instrument in this really awkward key to fit with the handpan players just playing along, and that's not going to, kind of having a little understanding on both sides of the aisle is going to go a long way when trying to make a dialogue happen between two instrumentalists.
We got a little comment from Lydia Brozo from Colorado Springs saying hi.
Hey, Lydia.
Randy's ready for some teaching. Randy Pizer's ready for some teaching. So
okay, all right. So David brought up the daf. This is an instrument. I don't call it the daf. I call it tar. Daf, as I understand it, is another word for drum in Arabic. Some def, I think, are the Persian def, is a larger frame drum and has rings on the inside.
Right. Yeah.
So it kind of buzzes. So this is
Jingles
a
or something,
ringless. This is just a tunable tar by the Cooperman company with a skin head. And so what I'm going to teach you, handpan players, is the technique that I use to play my ding, which really actually stems from playing the frame drum. And it's this open thumb technique. So I'm going to switch my camera. Should I roll with this for a second, David?
Yeah, go for it. I was thinking, like, if you wanted to show some techniques that you play on the tar, you call it tar?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you play a couple rhythms there and then maybe go back to the handpan and show how it transfers to the handpan.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. All right, so the first sound is doom. Doom is the bass tone. And I'm striking the bass tone maybe an inch, inch and a half, 2 inches into the head if you have a frame drum. But really, the key point is where I'm striking on the thumb. It's the side of the thumb, kind of off the callus a bit. And I kind of keep this open shape in the hand the whole time, before and after. So how does that translate on handpan? So I'm striking on the side of the thumb, and I'm keeping this kind of open shape in my hand. Keeping the hand open. I see a lot of people when they play, and their hands will kind of pop off or close up. And I just try and stop that from happening, because what you don't want to do is let the motion of your hand affect the sound, but you want to go for that full ringing sound. So if you keep your hand kind of consistently open, and then after you strike, you're ready for another strike. And the left hand doom is what gets people.
Yeah.
Left hand thumb open. Same thing. This is just called the open tone. Open tone, we're going for maximum resonance with each strike.
Adam,
okay,
on that,
so,
this is Daniel. Like on your thumb strikes, like when you're doing that, or you're taking here. I'm gonna get on here. Boom. When you're doing your thumb strikes, like that, like when you transferred it over to the tabla, like what was the practice that you were doing? Were you just doing that 1, 2, and then going? Like, is there a practice for it? Like, because some of the beginners, they're trying to get like a technique. And then, like, if you're using your thumb on the top.
So this is like.
What is your technique, practice for that? What is your practice for that?
This is like what, you know, the scene in Karate Kid when he's like.
Oh, the wipe on, wipe off, or whatever.
No, it's not wax on, wax off. This Kill Bill, when she's in the dojo, and she's got there's the block of wood, and she's got a fist up against the block of wood, and that's just the punch from like no motion, no prep, kind of that. So this is that idea, but for like happy handpan time. We don't want to hurt our hands, but this is to have the most efficient strike. and it's basically just a single stroke. So this is called open tone single stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Letting it ring, and just one individual single stroke. So you strike, and then you're basically at rest position again. Strike. But see, my rest position, my shoulders down, my elbows relaxed, strike, and then I'm like, I can be ready for another. I'm ready to strike the next note.
Are you listening? Are you listening to the sound also as it drops?
Of course. You listen, and you're going for a round sound.
Got it.
Round,
Nice.
warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go for the fleshy, patty part of the thumb. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are three elements when generating your tone that you want to keep in mind. The first is the velocity. And okay, so this concept comes from Lee Stevens. Lee Stevens is a marimbist. He plays the marimba, and he's an expert virtuoso marimbist who developed a whole technique and a whole method behind his technique. So the three elements that he says for your strike you need are velocity. You're gauging your velocity coming down. That's going to have a huge effect on the type of sound that you get. The second element is your angle. So for us, we're not playing marimba, we're playing handpan. Our fingers are mallets. Getting a good angle on the ding with your thumb or with whatever finger you're playing is going to have a big effect, the angle. So try. Let's try, and we'll say the third thing is placement. Placement is where on the ding. So not the angle of your hand, but where specifically on the ding are you going to strike, or on the tone. So let's start with velocity. Velocity, everyone with your handpan, we're going to try velocity scale 1 to 10. So we're going to start at 1. 1 is where you strike your ding, but you barely make any sound. And you're lifting off, and you're going to get a full bloom, even though it's soft. Yeah. Even though it's soft, you lift off. So 1. Okay, and then velocity 2. So we're a little more velocity. 3. 4. 5. So 5 is a pretty mid-range. 6. 7. Okay, 8. Uh-oh. 9. And 10. That's as hard as you want to hit a handpan in any circumstance.
Yeah.
I don't go really beyond a 7. You gotta listen for where the note is breaking. For me, the Shiraz, the note started breaking around 7. Anywhere beyond 7, and I'm getting the bam, 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 bam. The note cannot take the amount of velocity that the player's putting in, so it bends before resonating. So you hear a bam, bam. It sounds like a crackling. It's not really. It's not a pure, nice sound. That's the sound of someone overplaying on their handpan. Yeah. So velocity, right? Angle.
I think that's totally important. Like I like to teach my students that because you want to have different volumes on your handpan, and that's awesome, actually.
And there is a louder volume that you can explore that is not overplaying. Getting into this loud, more kind of present style of playing, that really, if you're listening to people street performing, they have to find a way to project their sound on the handpan without overplaying. So it's getting kind of really comfortable in the 6, 5, 6, 7 range where the instrument is as vocal as it can be without overplaying on the instrument is key. So the second...
Would you tell people to practice just the volume, and then just going back and forth and like practice that just to get like your thing.
No, so this is velocity, right? This is the velocity aspect, right? Now the second aspect is angle. Angle is, so the thumb is open. We've kind of determined the what the hand is looking like with this strike. We've got an idea of how much velocity we want to put in. Now the angle. So I strike my ding. When I'm making contact, just the side of the pad of my thumb is just off the apex, just the very top of the apex, kind of right there off the side. Also, the pad of my thumb is making contact on the interstitial, just outside the tone field. So when I strike, it's not the thumb only making contact, but it's the pad of the thumb kind of making contact now with the interstitial. So it's the whole hand is making contact. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I do the same thing. Yeah.
So this is really the fullest. Now experiment with the angle. Say that you play more vertical angle. Here I'm hearing more overtones.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing less fundamental. Say I come even more up on the tip. I'm actually hearing a lot of overtone and not very much fundamental at all in this case.
Yeah. But that's good to know, because like sometimes as a performer you want to have different sounds. You want to have different nuances to the note, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And then bringing the angle more downwards. So this is where I find the fullest tone, kind of the combination of the palm with the thumb, strike and lift. Same thing with the left hand. Okay, and then placement is the third thing, velocity angle placement, VAP. So placement, I'm really, if you can point your ding in a direction, I'm thinking north, south, east, west. My thumb is falling really in between east and south. Kind of right southeast direction. So my shoulder is relaxed, my elbows dropped, and this is where the thumb most naturally falls onto the ding. And this is also where you'll probably get the most sound because you're not contorting your hand in any way. But totally natural position where the thumb naturally falls on the ding. Boom. This is how you practice getting just an open tone. So when you're playing and you're like, I want more sound out of my hands, then consider those three elements: the velocity, how much weight and speed you're putting into the tone, the angle of your hand, and then also the placement on the ding. So another thing about placement, sometimes people will play, say they've got their angle down and their velocity down, but they're still playing right on the top of the ding. If you play right on the top, I believe that you activate more of a node. A node is this point where their vibration is not happening. This is something that occurs when you play any tonal membrane right in the center. You're actually canceling out vibrations. So to get the maximum vibration, just like when you play the frame drum, doom, I'm playing off center. Versus playing, if I play in the center, I got no tone. It's a note.
It's like a thinner slapping kind of sound rather than a full
Yeah.
warm sound. Yeah.
There's no tone.
Yeah.
So I pull off center, and I've got bass tone. So this is a concept that, frame drum, doumbek. When I played timpani in orchestra, timpani are these big drums in the back of the orchestra. This is really where this concept is apparent, because the player's initial instinct is to strike in the center of the timpani.
Yeah.
But if you strike in the center, you get dong, no tone.
Really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, so you pull off center. You're really playing just 1 or 2 inches from the rim of the instrument, really, for the fullest tonal activation. So it's the same thing on handpan. Instead of striking right in the center, I find the best sound is when I'm off center. Just off center a little bit. So kind of in that eastern quadrant with the angle. Activating right here in this area. And that seems to get the fullest effect of the ding for me.
Could you do like a little improv incorporating some of that stuff that you were just showing?
Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool. Just kind of like you were talking about the scale 1 through 10 of loudness, right? Then you were talking about velocity, placement, and what was the other one?
Angle.
Angle. Velocity, angle, and placement, right? So maybe like incorporate the whole handpan if you can, because it'd be great to hear you play just a little bit. But just maybe I don't know, even call it out while you're doing it. I don't know if you could do that or not. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go to the soft velocity, so around 1 velocity. Around 2 velocity. Maybe I'll go to 3 or 4. Okay, around a 6 velocity. It's louder,
Yeah.
And a 7. Okay, the angle. Really, I don't play so much. Okay, we can play on an angle. Let's play on the tips of our fingers.
Yeah.
So coming up on the tip of the thumb.
Yeah. It does sound different.
It sounds
Got a
completely
different
different. I probably look really silly too.
No, it looks cool. It's interesting to look at, actually. By the way, what rhythm are you playing? Are you playing something in 4/4? I can't tell.
Oh, I'm going.
Oh, okay.
So 1, 2.
Does that have a name, that rhythm?
4, 1.
Is there a name to that?
This could be like kind of like a second line rhythm. So second line is a type of rhythm and a type of music that came out of New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
This is music that stemmed from slave communities when they were creating their own music, their own rhythms. That very influential. This is the type of music that influenced jazz, and it was the type of music that was influenced by African music. It was kind of this meeting place, the birthplace of blues, all of that. So the rhythm is doom 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 da doom doom
Oh,
doom
okay. Yeah.
doom doom da doom doom
Yeah.
doom doom da doom 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 da doom 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 doom.
Got it. Okay. So
I
that's
wasn't
actually,
thinking of like. I was just trying to play something that would be only on open tone, and that's
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of what
yeah.
came out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I loved it. And in fact, it's kind of interesting because a lot of beginners, they're always wondering like, how do I play? What do I play? I'm not sure what to do with my instrument. And it's interesting that you were only really focusing on really like the things you were showing us earlier about how to strike the note, but then just casually you created this rhythm to play, right? And what you did is you didn't just create that rhythm out of the blue. That was a rhythm that you had previously heard and kind of maybe even studied a little bit to understand it, right? And then what you did,
Yeah.
just out of the blue, you incorporated it and made it into something you were playing on the handpan, and it became like a little riff or a little song of some sort.
Yeah.
And that's really, and it's really fascinating how I think people like you, like a musician that's an adept and experienced musician, you just come up with this stuff really fast. But for beginners, they're like, I don't know, what did you do? You know, how did you do that? And I think some of it is experience and just listening and being able to take one thing and put it onto another thing, right? To some degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Adapting.
Adapting, yeah.
So this is a 16 beat rhythm. Don't be afraid by 16. 16 is another way to say four
Yeah.
beats or 8 beats. 16, 32, 64. It's kind of all on this. It's all on that level. So
Yeah.
this you can think of this as a 16 beat that is broken up in 3, 3, 3, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
So 3, 6, 9, 12, and then another 4, 16.
Yeah.
So the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Just thought I would break that down for anyone that wanted to try.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. It's really fascinating because I love the way you're incorporating the again, back to the Lee Stevens stuff. First of all, the levels of velocity that you're playing at, and then you incorporated this rhythm, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you've got music because you were incorporating the rhythm, the sound. To some degree, by going back and forth between a couple different notes, you're creating a melody of some sort, or at least a harmony of some sort. So I love it. It's cool. All of a sudden, boom, music.
All right, we got a question here from Ricky EQ. Thank you, Adam. That was awesome on the practice, and I think getting those rhythms are like really important, and like it's cool how you take your rhythms from your the frame drum and take it to the handpan. That's one way that you can actually do it. But we have Ricky EQ. Do you play on a click track or metronome as part of practice? Actually, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a Metronome app that is a free app, and I recommend that when I'm working with students that they download this, and then I hassle them every single lesson until they quit taking lessons from me. I kind of lived on the metronome for years. I had a Dr. Beat, and a Dr. Beat was everything was in house. It even talked. So So it had a talking
Nice.
phase like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and
Can you
4
show us real
E
quick too?
and-
Playing with that? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, so here's the metronome. This is a free app. I highly recommend everyone download this. There it is. Oh my gosh, the glare.
Yeah, there it is. You're good.
There we go. Okay, so I'll take you through. This is to take, all right, the thumb stroke that we learned. We worked on this thumb stroke. Now, when we're playing open on the ding, you have to lift. If for an open tone, you have to lift off in order to let it resonate. When we flip over, this time I want you to play the open tone, but instead of lifting off, you can just strike and leave it. Because what we're going to do is now we're going to prepare our hand to play the outside 3 fingers as a stroke. So we have thumb, and then we have the outside pinky, ring, middle. Okay, so and then I'll show you how I use the metronome. I'm going to teach you this exercise while we do the metronome exercise. So I'm going to put on my metronome, and I'm going to go super slow, like 60.
That is super slow.
Okay, so thumb, okay, thumb, middle. I'll say middle, but what I mean is the outside 3, so pinky, ring, middle finger, and then middle on the left hand, pinky, ring, middle. So thumb, middle, thumb, middle. All right, this is an amazing warm-up for anyone playing handpan. And I do this all the time. So thumb, middle, thumb, middle. And I lock with the metronome. Thumb, and middle. Okay, so this is 1 note per beat. So we've been playing now just 1 note per beat. For each beat of the metronome, we're playing 1 note. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. We're all getting that. Okay, now we're going to try 2 notes per beat. So thumb, middle, 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 Okay, we're gonna do 3. Thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb. So the 3 notes per beat. Thumb, middle, 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 thumb. Thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, Okay, we're gonna go to 4. Thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb. 6. 8. 9. 12. That's back to 8. 6. 4. 2. 1.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good exercise. That'll keep you going for a little
That was
while.
a great.
Yeah.
That was actually great because I've never really messed with the metronome. I try to go with my own rhythm, but yeah, the metronome's fun. Actually, I did. I just started loopers, and that's cool. Like doing
This is a technique for using the metronome where you're modulating on top of the metronome stays the same, but you're the one modulating. So instead of you're finished with the exercise, now I'm going to turn it up 5 clicks.
Got it.
Play it again. Okay, now I'm going to turn it up 5 clicks.
Got it.
Instead of that, now we're growing from where we're standing using system of double speed, triple speed, double speed, triple, double, triple, and stacking it that way. So you're kind of feeling rhythm now as a whole spectrum within this one length of time that's set throughout the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, by the way, on the top side of the handpan, could you incorporate that with melodic ideas on the top?
Absolutely. Okay, so I do this for. Okay, so this technique. Okay, we're going to use this technique now. Thumb, thumb, middle, middle on the top of the instrument. I did some of these exercises with the attendees at the Steel Mountain Riverside retreat with Mark earlier last year in November. And I think people were like getting into this metronome work because it almost doing this type of exercise almost doesn't make sense until you bring the metronome in. And that's going to really stretch your skills, stretch you to feel time, stretch your kind of feeling of time.
Mm-hmm.
So same exercise, we can play note number 1, thumb, note number 2, thumb, note number 3, middle, note number 4, middle. So instead of the outside 3 fingers, I'm just using my middle finger.
Just the single finger, yeah.
Thumb, thumb, middle, middle. Let's all try that on our respective scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay. Thumb, thumb, middle, middle. Thumb, thumb, middle, middle. Aye, aye, aye. Thumb, thumb, middle, middle. Thumb, thumb, middle, middle. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
So with metronome, it would look like this. Thumb, thumb, middle, middle. Thumb, thumb, middle, middle. Again. Thumb, middle, middle. Thumb, thumb, middle, middle. Again. So if you have 8 notes on top, you're golden. If you have 9 notes, play 1 less. If you have only 7 notes on top, you could maybe play the ding. Thumb, thumb, middle, middle. 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 Now 3s. Thumb, So now with the metronome, you could play this same exact thing, same scale, but now thumb, 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 middle, 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 middle. You're no longer using split hand, but we could do different fingerings. Thumb, 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 middle, 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 thumb, 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 middle, 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 thumb, 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 middle, 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 thumb, 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 middle, 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 middle. 3 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So when you're in threes, it's only every 3 cycles will you come back to 1 on the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3. Now it lines up. Every 3, 2, 3, lines up here. 1, 2. So thinking of modulating over time like this is very much inspired by Indian percussion. And it fits nicely on handpan because handpan is very much inspired by Indian percussion. The handpan itself is a hybrid instrument, half coming from the steel drum from Trinidad, the instrument that Dave was building for 20 years before he built the handpan. And then the other instrument is the guttam. The guttam is this clay drum. So this is an instrument that is the first documentation of this instrument is year 500 CE. So that's the same as AD. Year 500 AD is the first documented use of the guttam. It's a clay drum from India. This instrument is tuned to a specific pitch. They tune it based on its size. So you'll see guttams in all different sizes and pitches, from very big, low instruments to even much smaller than this one. And this is tuned to an E. And if you listen, that note is E. E. You have the shape. If you flip your handpan over, you have hello.
Yep.
So your U is very similar to the port on the guttam. And this is where the air, the bass sound is coming out of the instrument. So if you strike, just like what Dave did, on the port of the handpan, you'll hear this bass tone.
And that also sounds really good when there's a microphone on it.
Yes. So we have the gu, and the instrument is really played mainly the thumb, two thumbs, outside 3 fingers,
Yeah, that's great.
This is really the money. The thumb and outside three, thumb and outside three.
Adam, I think the big thing. I think the big thing that I take out of this from what you just showed us is like I like the modulation, because a lot of times my students like they're always too fast, so I tell them like slow is faster. So in the modulation, you do it slow, and then you speed it up.
Yeah, I mean the metronome will keep you true. So,
Yeah.
So for
I like
example,
that exercise with the metronome too.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we would basically play anything in 3 speeds. So you have like the slow speed, you have the medium speed, and then you have the kind of fast virtuosic speed. This is like a formula that's used in Indian percussion, in tabla from North India all the way to Carnatic music in South India. This type of formula that's used rhythmically. So here's a pattern that is going to now take this technique that we used and follow along. So it's 8 beats. Thumb, left hand 3. So thumb, left hand 3. That's the first 2 strokes. Next 2, outside 3 on the right. Index finger or thumb, no index finger. So outside 3 and then thumb. That's 3 and 4. So we're going thumb, left hand slap, outside 3 on the right, thumb. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then outside left, 5. Right hand outside 3 is 6. 7 is thumb. And 8 is outside 3. So it goes like this. Thumb, left, right, thumb, left, right, thumb, left. Again.
I got the first 4.
Left, right, thumb, left, right, thumb, left. So you have it, it's actually 3, 3, 2. Thumb, left, right, thumb, left, right, thumb, left. 3, 3, 2.
Oh.
Yeah. Exactly. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Ah. Ah.
Yes. So nice and slow. With the metronome, it's going to be like this. Okay. Thumb, left, right, thumb, left, right, thumb, left, thumb, left, right, thumb, left, right, thumb, left, thumb, left, right, thumb, left, right, thumb, left, thumb, left, right, thumb, left, right. Okay, now double. Thumb left, right, thumb left, right, thumb left, thumb left, right, thumb left, right, thumb left, thumb left, right, thumb left, right. So in Indian percussion, instead of using the words thumb left, right, they say ta ki ta ta ki ta ta ka ta ki ta ta ki ta ta ka ta ki ta ta ki ta ta ka ta ki ta ta ki ta ta. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ta ki ta ta ki ta ta ka 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 ta ki ta ta ki ta ta ki ta ta ki ta ta ka ta ki ta ta ki ta 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 ki ta ta ki ta ta ka 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 ta ki ta ta ki ta ta and then double that again.
Lost it.
So that's another, and that sounds nice on frame drum. So the idea of that is that you can feel how that pattern feels now. Using the metronome, you can feel it at these different points. You can feel it as a slow rhythm. You can feel it as a just like kind of medium walking rhythm. You can feel it as more of a roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A roll when it's getting so fast. Like it starts to sound like a.
Yeah.
This is called Rela. Rela is a type of pattern in tabla and Indian percussion that will then roll. You can speed it up so fast that it will roll like that. So that's one really kind of creative use of the metronome.
That was awesome.
How
man.
I would.
That was awesome. And that was
Thank you.
actually, I want to. Now you just inspired me to use the metronome more. So just to mess around and those rhythms that we are. It's super cool because in the beginning when I first started, like my rhythm sucked, and that's one of the things I had to practice was just doing this, and then just having an even tone, and then keep it faster. You know what I mean? And like that's what I just teach my students: just get on the top and just do this all day long, and try to get it and modulate it. Don't just stop. You have to like slow it down, and then it just gives you like the control. But that's amazing. Thank you for that. I know we're at an hour right now, Dave. So we're.
Oh yeah, exactly. We're probably gonna have to wrap it up. I really wanted to get into the musical production element of how you incorporate the handpan with the arrangements that you make, because they're just really amazing arrangements, and I love the way you use the different instruments, especially the Middle Eastern instruments. Do you use oud occasionally?
I don't play the oud, but I've worked with oud players.
Worked with oud players, yeah. I think the oud and handpan sound awesome together, and I think I might have heard it on one of the tracks that I listened to from one of your recordings. Yeah,
definitely. I think maybe it's the sound of the tonal resonating body of wood.
It's gorgeous. Yeah,
I really love the sound of like bass with handpan or guitar with handpan. Like, that's really a nice, mellow combination.
Nice, absolutely. So, another thing I learned today, and thank you so much for bringing all of this to light, because it's funny, sometimes you never quite know where these interviews are going to go, but this was a really great direction, because it basically shows me to explain to beginners and that sort of thing that they should look not just to the handpan for musical ideas. They should look at other instruments, especially rhythmic instruments, for different ideas of what they can play on the instrument here. So again, kind of adapting it from one instrument and taking it to the handpan. I think that's a really good thing that you just explained to us today. You're just basically taking these different rhythms that you learned on different instruments and you applied them to the handpan. So I think that's a really good thing for people to know.
Yeah, and doing it with an open mind, trying to come up with the way that works for this instrument is going to be different than the way that it worked on its initial thing.
Sure.
Say that you've played piano, in your life, and there's certain ways to incorporate what you do as a pianist onto the handpan, whether it's melodic, whether it's the notes that you're choosing to play, whether it's the type of techniques that you play with. But if you try and play it exactly like a piano, it's obviously not going to work. You have to think of like, how can you take that with a grain of salt and add it to the handpan world, or bring the qualities of the handpan towards what you're working on over there in the piano world. you
Well,
know,
for
say you play harp or violin or any of these instruments, or don't really even have experience, then what? I
Right.
think looking at a variety of different teachers is always recommended. Um, you know, one teacher is teaching from their particular experience and background, and it isn't
Absolutely.
the way, it's just
Right.
a way.
A
And
way. Yeah.
yeah. And so you know, there's lots of different avenues that you can go just learning the handpan directly from someone. Um, Learning from David Kay is going to have a different style of teaching than learning from someone like Cabasal. If you take
Cabasal.
Cabasal's masterclass,
Yes.
then Cabasal is going to have his own concepts that he wants to convey to you as a musician, concepts that
Right.
are important on this instrument that you don't necessarily have to have developed already. I mean, this is the instrument that we're developing our skills.
Absolutely.
So we're learning
Yeah.
we're learning our rhythm. We're learning about harmony and harmonics and fundamentals, and how all of these things can kind of come together to create a full picture of a player.
Yeah.
2 questions, Adam. Susan Cromwell is asking the name of the app again that you were using, the Metronome.
Yeah, it's a Pro Metronome app.
Pro
and it's a
Metronome.
Pro Metronome. Yeah, it's
Pro
free on the
Metronome.
App Store.
Is that with Apple or Android? Or are they
This
both?
is an Apple. Yeah, this is.
Okay.
I have an iPhone.
So that Susan Cornwell, that's the answer. And my actually, like when you first started playing handpan, this is for the beginners. Think back to when you first started playing, and what
Yeah.
would be one thing that you would give your advice to beginner hand players starting out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's like there are players that have really just soared in their musicianship on this instrument, players that have picked this instrument up and really kind of found a musical voice for themselves. And for anyone seeking that, you know, I think that like looking at your roots as a human, your roots as someone that's interested in music, what initially brought you and your interest in music, and how is that incorporated with your study and your practice, is going to be kind of essential for moving day to day to day. That your practice and your music is coming from almost a source of identity rather than a curriculum or something like that. That can be, I think, helpful when trying to find one's voice on the instrument. Maybe, I don't know if this is a question for sure. I mean, beginner players are trying to find their voice. Advanced players are trying to find their voice.
Yeah.
I've been playing music my whole life, and I'm still trying to find my voice.
Yeah,
That's a good point. Yeah,
that
that's
is
true.
a good point. Yeah. Well, that's what I found.
I would,
like,
yeah.
and,
I would say
like,
don't sweat like getting this type of instrument or that type of instrument, or it has to be, you know, you're not the quality of your instrument. Like you are a musician, and so it's like there's a lot that can be done with a frame drum, that can be done with an 8-9 note handpan. Doesn't matter if it's nitrided or steel, or if it's an F sharp or a D, or it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like there is some way for you to get creative with the tools that you have already.
Right.
Like you don't need anything else, and that's easy for someone to say who has like 90 instruments in my studio.
Right.
I keep telling myself every day, you don't need any more.
Yeah,
Don't buy any more. You don't need any more.
You just like to you like to express yourself in different ways, and that's what I found. Like in teaching, my goal is to get the music out of people. That's what you're talking about. I think is the voice that people have. They have their own expression. The handpan is the medium. You have your own music, and that's beautiful. Thank you, Adam. That's cool.
Yep.
Dave?
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up, but don't forget, everybody else that's out there watching, we've got Adam going to be coming to LA and here to the DII shop. Hopefully, we'll have a in-person workshop probably in June. We're looking at June right now.
June.
So mark your calendars.
Look out for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a little sneak peek of what you could learn. at that workshop, and I'm sure he's going to go into all sorts of fun stuff. And it's always much more fun when you've got a group of people to learn with. It really is a lot of fun having a group, and you can bounce off each other. And he's right there. He'll be like helping you out right on the spot. So check that out. Otherwise, thank you so much, Adam, for being with us today.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. All right. There it is. There it is. And thanks a bunch to all of the viewers out there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Hey, Adam, do you want to play a little something while we cue out of this?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, you're gonna play? Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
All right, everyone.
Have a good one.
Yep.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you for having me, guys. That was really great.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
See you
Bye.
next time.
Good evening, everyone. Peace and love.